CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.
Standing right next to me needs no introduction. Sir John Kirwan, JK, mate, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. I've never had a chance to meet you and have a chat, so appreciate it.
Good to be here.
First question.
The invite.
Well, thanks for being here, by the way. First question, what's wrong with the Crusaders?
Who cares, mate? I'm from the Blues area. We're second and you're eighth or whatever it is, which has been, don't often see that, do we?
No, you're not helping my mood at all.
Yeah, no, look, I think, from a rugby point of view, I think the rugby's been really good this season. I think it's been really good rugby. I think what's happening is those micro schools are really letting teams down. So they're creating these opportunities, but then maybe the last pass. But I think the main thing is a rebuilding time. The Crusaders have always had incredible leaders and incredibly great players, really, in key positions. And, I think a lot of the players in the Crusaders are growing into those roles, 9 and 10,
yep.
Some of your locks, with Scott not being there. So, I think those things are hard to replace now from a leadership point of view. But, it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. They're still in eighth, which is officially a playoff berth.
Totally. Wasn't it fixed this year?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just trying to
you're not helping.
But I tell you what, I'm just so proud of, the Canterbury people. I've been down there talking mental health during and after the earthquake, and how beautiful is the city now.
I know.
And that new stadium. And thank God, whoever it was, and I'll take my hat off to you for putting the roof on it. It's just amazing. You'll be able to pour out of the city and go into town. And I think that's going to help local business.
Oh, yeah.
Local business is not hard. The restaurant trade's not hard. So I just think it's fantastic that, the resilience has turned into what I believe is a pretty beautiful city now, and the stadium just tops it off.
It is an amazing city, and that stadium is going to be the centre point. Actually, on Friday's show, you're right about the roof. One other thing happened very, very late. Sam McDonald, one of the councillors, and I've got him on the show on Friday, made sure that they put the extra 5,000 seats in, because it did have a capacity somewhere around 29,000. Now it's going to, for big test matches, it can go to 30,000. So, and I think that's going to make a big difference. Yes, it costs a bit more, but you only get to build this once, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And look, I think sometimes, and this is a political challenge I'm sure a lot of politicians have, is often we're thinking about the cost today. Right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, I don't know if you remember the Highlanders Stadium, everyone was blowing up about that, what it was going to cost the ratepayers. Now they skied about it and they love it. But also, we just can't think about rugby. We've got to think about multi-sports. We've got to think about creating world events like, for me, it's probably Bruce Springsteen or Pearl Jam coming down. For someone younger, it's probably Taylor Swift. But we need places where they can come and perform. And we need multi-use stadiums. If you look at Auckland, we've got sort of 5 or 6 stadiums, and we just need one real good one that everyone plays at.
I'm not going to disagree with you. And I was reading an article actually this morning in the airport about the Dunedin Stadium, and it costs $266 million. So relatively cheap nowadays, and they've got it. 15 years ago, yes, the Canterbury Stadium is 200 or 600 odd million, but hey, that's inflation over that amount of time, but also slightly bigger roof. And they looked at some of the issues that plagued the Dunedin Stadium and improved on them. So it's going to be fantastic. So, yeah, I agree with you. And opening night this Friday night, you're not coming down, though?
No, I'm not there. Obviously, I don't work for Sky anymore, so I won't be there. I'll be probably couch surfing most of the weekend. I love Super Weekend. I think it's a great idea. I was there in Melbourne when they started it. Unfortunately, we need to make sure that the crowds turn up and it becomes a bit of a fixture. But what a great way to open it from a rugby point of view, at least.
It's a sellout, pretty much. Friday night, the opening game against the Waratahs is an absolute sellout. I'm pretty certain that the majority of the 2 days are sellouts. What's really cool, and I had a look at the timeframes, is there's only about 35, 40 minutes in between games. 5 o'clock kickoff and a 7 or 7:35 kickoff. So, you're not going to...
It's a great day, man.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
It's such a good day if you're a sports nut like I am. But being able to see all the teams all in one spot, like you say, go and support the team that you love. If you're a one-eyed Cantabrian, it's going to be Canterbury or the Crusaders. But if you're an Aucklander, you can go down
Yep.
and watch your team, but also watch the Crusaders
Yeah.
play live against someone else's.
and enjoy all of the everything that Christchurch inner city has got to offer, and it is a great place.
Well, I just think it is a great place, and I just think, like I say, sometimes our politicians and our councillors, take a lot of flack, but the vision and the courage they showed to put it where it is in town, because that's how, we're going to be talking today about the farming community. At the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money. So they've spent it properly, but it means that you can go and enjoy it. Then you can go into town and spread some of the love around from a financial point of view, which we need. We need buoyancy, we need positivity, we need some real vibrance as a country at the moment.
Yeah.
Been really tough on everyone, but I think the nice thing is
it has been tough collectively.
Really tough.
People are a bit down at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, we keep getting punched in the face, don't we? At the moment, it's one of those things where we've got natural disasters. We just talked about, the earthquakes, but then we've had flooding, in places like Gisborne, often on the Bay of Plenty. We got flooded a couple of weeks ago. So there's lots happening. And then we've got Mr. Trump doing some stuff which
Mr.
changes.
Trump doing Trump, yeah,
being Trump. So there's all these things going on. I'm really, really happy to say that the rural communities are probably doing a little bit better than the big cities at the moment.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a politician the other day, and he said, we were just starting to turn around, and then the Trump stuff happens, and you get a few floods and a few things happen. So the interesting thing from a mental health point of view, change is normal now. So change is normal, but also crisis is something you have to learn to deal with.
So how do you do that? Because I've made a note here, and you said to me, I'm more into the preventative space. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I think, when I suffered from my mental health, I had no idea that it even existed. For me, and you're probably old enough to remember this. No
I do,
brother.
I do remember.
You're probably old enough to remember this movie, right? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
But that was my reference to mental health, because no one spoke about it. So, when I suffered, I thought I was going insane, and that my future was going to be locked up in an asylum for the rest of my life. And that was a real fear, like a real fear. So I think, a lot of mental health, it's ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. We wait too long to give people the tools. You were around in the 80s? How good were the 80s? We used to smoke cigarettes, drink piss, eat pies, and no one gave a shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Because there was no knowledge around. Now, by the end of the 80s, and you would have lived through this, people say, maybe you shouldn't smoke, that's not good for you. And maybe you shouldn't do this, and maybe you shouldn't do that. And possibly, beef and lamb, where we're here today, might have also had been affected by that because we went too far one way, right? So, but I feel that now the 2020s are a bit like that for mental health. So we've sort of got the awareness, but we don't really know how to look after ourselves. So that's why I've gone to the preventative space where, what I learned from being incredibly unwell, that I put into my daily life, helps me be sort of thriving instead of just surviving, but also doing my preventative stuff so that I don't get unwell.
So what do you do?
Well, I live by the 6 pillars, and there's the 6 pillars, which I have a tech company, an AI tech company, that's in the health space. And so the 6 pillars that we talk about, you might have heard of Te Whara Tapawhā. You might have heard every country sort of has these 6 pillars. So mine are chill. So how do you switch your brain off, right? And let's put it into the country environment. It's pissing down, your farm's flooded. The milk prices, although this is not happening, are shit. Or it's raining, or whatever's happening in your life. How do you switch off from that? Because you need to. So how do you switch off your brain? I've got a very active brain, so I need to be able to, I'm an active relaxer. So that means I do things like I read, I play the guitar, and I cook, right? And that completely switches me off from what's happening outside, because you can't change that, right?
Yeah.
Can't change it's raining or flooding or whatever. How do you do something outside your normal thing? So how do you grow your brain, and how do you continue to stimulate your brain? So that's neuroplasticity. I'm learning how to read music because it's way away from what I normally do. How do you move? So what are you doing? This is really interesting for farmers. So how are you moving? And I don't mean fitness-wise. What are you doing actually for your mental health moving? Might be going for a walk with your wife, might be doing something outside the norm. How do you connect? And that's also through technology and stuff. So how are you connecting? What do you enjoy every day, and what are you celebrating every day? So that's sort of the 6 pillars that if you put them in your day, then you're doing preventative mental health.
Can't argue with any of that, John. And obviously, you're here and you're going to be speaking to a whole bunch of farmers. You do a lot of speaking, public speaking, a lot of speaking to farmers. Do you find farmers different to speak to as to other groups you speak to?
Yeah, I do. So I find that, there's a few things that farmers need to realise. When they get put under pressure, they work harder.
Yeah.
They work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know,
head down, bum up.
Head down, bum up, because that's what you should do. You are quite isolated, right? So sometimes you can be a long way away from someone, and that means when you're working 7 days a week, you might not see anyone for a long, long time, and you got you and your thoughts out on the farm. You live and sleep with your partner normally.
Yeah, your workmate. Yeah,
which is your wife. So that's also not easy sometimes. The other thing is, by whole, you're quite introverted, right? So if I go to a psychiatrist and say those things, they'd go, shit, you're not looking after your mental health. And farmers do it naturally, right? So there's some things that you need to realise. You do need to take time off, and you do need to get away from the farm. Great to have interests outside the farm so that you actually, get off the farm and change and do those things I talked about changing how you're thinking. So naturally, farmers have a tendency to not have the greatest sort of 4 or 5 things that help their mental health. So you need to break some of those.
All right. Hey, John, fantastic and an absolute privilege to have a chat to you. Now, the other thing I was going to tell you that my mates, you might have noticed my glasses. They've christened them the John Kirwan glasses. They give me shit about it all the time.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
You're a beautiful looking man.
Oh, you're a great man. I'm actually going to get that saved, and I'm just going to play that to them ad nauseum, because they do give me a hard time about my new glasses.
Well, you tell your mates, let us worry about the fashion, and they can just follow us in a few years' time. There you
exactly.
go.
How's that?
Yeah.
How's that? Hey,
I remember I was the first one to wear sort of R.M. Williams.
Were you?
30 years ago. Look how that took off.
I know, it's taken off now, although where's the RMs today?
No, these are Tasmanian boot, actually. Yeah.
These are ringers. Anyway, we shouldn't be talking fashion. John Kirwan, Sir JK.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Soon.
And we'll talk to you again.
We will.
All right.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.